Hi, it's Saturday, June 1st, and the year is 2019, and this is the Pro and Con Show, signified by this awesome graphic. My name is Michael James Ott, and I'm your host. I'm actually doing the show again early today. I got another family event. We're going to go visit some friends, have dinner with them here on this Saturday. So I won't be here to do the show live at 6 p.m. as I normally try to do. I hate to be repetitive, and those of you that watch the show on a regular basis, I hope you can fast forward just a few seconds. But the intent of the show is to really encourage everyone to embrace the whole truth, the pro and the con, the good and the bad, the for and against, and trying to help that talk about what is really the news and what is opinion or bias. And so I normally go through a bunch of websites and talk about some of them, which generally are acknowledged to be more left-leaning. Some of them generally acknowledged to be more right-leaning, and then National Public Radio, which seems to me to be mostly unbiased. And so I go through the news here, and Huffington Post, which is one of the more liberal-leaning ones, their main title is "Migrant Kids Are in Detention; They're Prisoners." Another story that's running through the various websites is there was another mass shooting in Virginia Beach. If you go back, or if you do go back into some of my previous shows, you'll see that I'm suggesting that gun control is only a small portion of the answer. And to me, it actually feels, and I'm not an expert in psychology, but I'd love to speak to a conference of people that are, because it very much feels like there's a psychological side to these mass shootings that and we're causing it to continue because of all of the notoriety that we give the people that end up doing these mass shootings. Their name becomes very well known, at least well known relative to their complete unknownness. What I'm looking for, the college word. It's not coming to me. It might come to me later in the broadcast. But they're total unknowns, and then they do this. When one of the a couple of shows ago, I talked about a young guy who was legally buying guns and was getting ready. He was telling people he was getting ready to go back to his old school and kill a bunch of people, hoping that he could set a new record, kind of like it's a video game kind of thing. But and so I would like to say about that is I remember, so I'm 57 years old, and I remember back in the 70s, and by the way, I'm in no way equating the severity of these events, but back in the 70s, this thing streaking, so people would peel off their clothes and they would go running across the various sporting fields, or they'd run out onto a basketball court or whatever. And this was all the rage, and it was accelerating. And then at one point, the networks just said, "Look, by talking about these people so much and showing them on television, we're encouraging their behavior, and we have to stop that." And so they stopped doing it. And I remember, because you'd be watching a sporting event of some kind, and all of a sudden the camera would cut away from the court or the field or whatever, and you'd be on the commentators, and the commentators would be sitting there. It's like, well, we got a streaker, and our new policy is, or our policy is, we're not going to give these guys any publicity, because we just feel like it's not worth it. So he and I, or this other person, we're going to talk about what will come next after this brief pause, when this person has been arrested and carried away and never to be heard from again. And amazingly, the level of streaking just plummeted. So it was increasing almost exponentially, and then suddenly, when there was no coverage of it, no discussion about the names and faces and all this other stuff, it very quickly went away. It was an amazing change, and I can't help but feel that some part of that psychology is also prevalent in these mass shootings. And I would definitely, it would seem like something we could try is all the major news sources, or all the news sources, just basically refuse to cover who these people are. You can still say, well, there was a shooting at Virginia Beach, but just don't show their picture, no names, just, that's none of that's going to be in the public eye, with the intent that it would take away this, whatever this mental thing is that some of these people, are causing them to copycat, basically. Anyway, so NPR, that's their top headline is what we know about the Virginia Beach mass shooting victims. So they're talking about the victims and not the guy who did it, and that's good. Although it clearly names the fellow, and I'm not going to say his name because I feel like that would be encouraging this kind of behavior. So and then Fox News, which is one of the more right-leaning ones, it says the Supreme Court could intervene to try to push Trump from office as impeachment racket grows. And they've cited this very old now Dershowitz fellow. He was a professor. He's pretty well known, but he's like in his 80s now or something like that. And he's offering all kinds of opinions again. So be careful about that kind of stuff. Focus on the who, what, where, and when. And, as far as what might come in the future, well, no one has a crystal ball. So, listen to opinion or forecasting at your own peril. And then on Breitbart, they're talking about how Robert Mueller, they're basically talking about this again. The impeachment thing is all the rage, and so there's a poll. According to this, says the majority of people still are opposed to impeachment, and Democrats are in denial of this. Well, I don't think they're in denial of it at all. The reality is that I think the most accurate statements that I've seen are from some of the Democratic leaders in Congress who say Mr. Trump has done some things that might warrant impeachment, but the people don't appreciate that or don't support it. And impeachment is a thing that it must be supported by the people. So they're basically saying, we think there's definitely activities that would be impeachable or should be impeachable, but you have to have the will of the people behind this. That's what the impeachment process is. So, and to me, that as far as I can tell, when I look at the who, what, where, and when, and strip all the bias and all that out of it, that's the truth, and we'll see where that goes. Another thing I wanted to cover a little bit tonight is why I'm doing this. I'm doing this series every day, usually at 6 p.m., although a little bit earlier some days because I can't be here at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern, and 4 o'clock Pacific, by the way. And if you're out there and you are watching, just send a comment where you're watching from, whatever. Forward it on to your friends if you think the information is stimulating, thought-provoking. Please do that. Main reason why I'm doing it is I just feel like I know in my very heart, in my very soul, I know that we as a society, we as the citizens of this country, we as the species on this planet, we could do so much better than we are. We could be so much better than we are. We could do so much more. But we're not doing it. We're not accomplishing those goals. And I want to, so this is my contribution, part of my contribution to try to influence people to get more involved, to take the whole truth into their hearts and into their minds, the pro and the con, the good and the bad, the for and against, and then to seek it out. The other day I was watching a television program, and I'm sure based on the program itself, they probably selected this specifically, and just because you see one example, that doesn't speak for everyone, but it does say that it does at least exist. And they were interviewing members of the crowd after a town hall for one of the Democratic, there was a Republican town hall that this Amas, I think is his name. He's a congressman he's a Republican congressman who's suggesting that Donald Trump should be impeached. And anyway, they were interviewing some people in the audience afterward, and one of the people in the audience, they were talking and asking her questions, and she said, until today I had no idea that Mr. Trump had done some of these things. And she said, I watch Fox News, and I don't get that from them. I didn't hear any of this from them. I didn't know it existed. And that's exactly my point. I don't care where you are on the scale from liberal to conservative. I don't care what your views are. You've got to know that the various sources of information that are coming to you are not they're not holistic. They're not unbiased, and they're not complete. So that's why I'm suggesting I've got 5 different websites that I look at, and I'm suggesting you do that or something different, but something similar, and get informed. Take the time to be an informed citizen, because what it will do is it will cause you to rethink your positions, not because your old positions were wrong. Well, they were ignorant. This word ignorant, it just means that you don't know. We're all ignorant. Okay, I'm ignorant of how to do brain surgery. Okay, I'm ignorant of that. And if I want to do brain surgery at some point, then I need to understand it. I need to read all about the procedures and how it's done. And then, if I really wanted to try to do it and do it in a good way, I'd have to watch other people do the surgeries and attempt to practice on cadavers, I imagine, and so on. I don't know the whole process, but you can imagine what I'm talking about here. And so get yourselves out of the position of ignorance. Go away from the position of ignorance. It's critical that you do that. So I just want to say, just before we've got another minute or two here before I stop. So, the first 15 words of the Constitution, they artfully express really the main framework of governance and the only one that we really need. So those 15 words here, I'll read them. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union. These can be distilled to only 6. We, the people, perfect the union. We, the people, perfect the union. And the only way you're going to do that is you've got to get involved. You can't just elect and forget. You can't ignore your neighbors because they have different opinions and you think they're stupid. They're not. They just have different viewpoints because in many cases, well, part of it is their genetics and part of their the way they look at things is different. But part of it is just their experiences are different. The things that they've seen and done have brought them to a different place in their thinking, but that doesn't mean that if they had more experiences and more information that they wouldn't change their opinion. And that also is the same applies to me and to you. You get more information and you have different experiences, you change your opinion, you change and for the good, because you're fully informed. And I certainly, I'm 57 years old, and I certainly have done this over my years. When I was 20, a lot of things I still think of the same way, but there's a lot of things that are different too. Totally different. Because I have gone on to learn so much more and to experience so many different things, and it changes your perception of what things should be done and what things are appropriate going forward. So I'm going to leave you with a quotation from Thomas Paine. He was one of the so-called founding fathers back in the late 1700s, contributing to the Declaration of Independence and the Revolutionary War and all that. And his quotation here, so those who expect to reap the blessings of freedom must undergo the fatigue of supporting it. It takes effort. With great freedom comes great responsibility. And I'm doing this series, and I'm asking you to take on that responsibility, to spend a few hours every month understanding the issues in more depth, to purposefully seeking out information that wouldn't normally come to you, to make sure you fully understand that you're not ignorant of some of the issues, not ignorant of some of the facts on the issues that you think are fully resolved in your heads. Take it into your hearts and into your minds, the whole truth, the pro and the con, the good and the bad, the for and against. Well, this is Michael James Ott. This has been the Pro and the Con show for Saturday, June 1st, already, 2019. I hope each and every one of you enjoys great health and every fortune. And I look forward to talking to you again tomorrow. Bye for now.